Hello and welcome back to another episode of Transport Fever 2. In this episode, we'll start trying to utilize our highways a little more by potentially adding regional buses, as even though our train network is working pretty well, I think maybe having a few bus connections for the highways will just help cover a little bit of extra area that our trains can't quite reach. So the first thing we're going to do is quickly take a look at our destinations layer, and you can see just how sort of useful the highway is for allowing people to move between cities. You can see here a lot of people are using it between Mesa and San Jose, so there's definitely demand there for some connection, whether that be by bus, definitely not by train, so I suppose bus might be our only option. But you can also see other routes starting to grow in demand, such as here a bunch of people going in and out of Jackson and Scottsdale out to the cities of Albuquerque and Winston-Salem. Now, despite we do have a train route, I suppose we're not quite reaching some of the farther out stretches of some of these cities, which is forcing them to take private transportation. So some of this could be cleaned up by improving the bus networks in some of our cities so they can get to the train stations. And I think another option is maybe just by using buses between cities. So we get sort of a new catchment area, and it helps vary our public transportation options. So I think the first connection we're going to focus on is coming in and out of Mesa, since we still do have a good bit of traffic coming into the city, and as we checked before, it seems like a lot of it is coming from the San Jose area. We can come in here and we can click Mesa to see where people are going, so everyone in Mesa where they're going to. Or actually, I think the way to read this is where people are coming from into the city. I believe that's how you read this. So we can see there's a couple of areas in Downey where people are coming from. It seems to be maybe from places that aren't covered by the bus network, as over here, I think everyone's close enough to this bus station where it's easier for them to get a bus. However, on this side of the city, it's a lot easier for them to just simply drive over to the next city instead of moving to the other side of town, grabbing a bus, and then going to Mesa. So that's where some of the traffic's going, but that's not really what we're concerned about. I think a good portion of the traffic is actually coming in from San Jose. So I think maybe redoing the bus network in San Jose and then adding a bus line between those two cities will help bring down the traffic that we have on our one connection coming into the city through this bridge. Alright, so taking a look here at San Jose, you can definitely see that the city's grown a good bit since we last updated our bus network. Some of our stops are still pretty effective, but especially up on this side of the map, there's still a lot that we can cover with a few extra bus stops. So I think the first thing we're going to want to do is to get an actual sort of bus station in here. And because we're going to put it here, and this is going to become sort of our main passenger hub of the city, I want an easy, quick way out. So it looks like our major 4-lane road, we can extend it, and then it sort of breaks here. So we'll redo some of these roads and get this looking much nicer, since it's really just a mess. I mean, we have 3 intersections back to back with 2 roads where there's no space between them for really anything to happen. So this might get a little destructive for the city, but it's definitely needed in terms of cleaning it up. Alright, so we have a little bit better of a grid system here. It works just a little bit better. I think maybe we'll delete this. We'll find our 4-lane road. I think we'll just continue the 4-lane road through the rest of here, all the way down until it reaches here, since we can't really upgrade this without destroying some of the stuff we've built. But we'll give it a quick smooth over to even out the landscape, and then we can set up our bus station. Alright, so I think this is how we're going to end up placing our station. This allows buildings to still grow on most of the sides of this block still, while this station takes up a little bit of the area along the street here. I am a little worried about how short this connection is, but we'll keep an eye on it once we get started. And you can see this does still connect to the train and the port, so we're still connected to our major passenger outlets. And now I think we can just go around, probably delete all the existing bus stations or bus stops, and then we'll set up 2 separate loops going around the whole city. Alright, so we have our stops. Let's come in, grab our first bus line. We'll start fresh, remove everything, and we'll set up each one going in opposite directions, and then we can focus on how we're going to get over to Mesa. Alright, so now we have 2 buses going in each direction. We're going to change this so that both of these buses go to one stop, and then our regional bus will go on another one here. So here you can pretty much see how this will work. The buses will come in, go around the loop, pull into its stop, pick up the people there, and then continue on out. So hopefully this won't get too overloaded, especially, well, once our buses get spread out, it shouldn't really have any issues. We just now need to come over to Mesa and get this end prepared for another bus line. So this, I think, will just be as simple as adding another platform here, but I think we're gonna have to get rid of our collision tile that's underground, since that's what's blocking us from adding that. Alright, so now we have our extra platform in here, and now we can get a bus line set up between those 2 cities. So let's start this off in Mesa, and if we take a look at our buses, we don't have anything new. This is still our fastest bus, so we'll go with those. We'll grab, I'll say 18 will probably work. And we'll have that coming from this station all the way into San Jose. So like that. So we should now see all of our buses coming out of the road depot. They'll probably stop here first and then head over. And we probably won't see anyone start on the line until later on. It looks like our traffic might still be starting to build up here, but hopefully with these new buses, that'll help cut down this traffic just a little bit. And we can already see we have 5 people waiting to go to San Jose, 6 people. So there's definitely a demand for that line, and hopefully we're able to deliver on that demand. And something I just noticed while we were setting up that line, this intersection is not doing too well for this line, as we usually get a big buildup of trucks and everything sort of gets jumbled up and messed up with this intersection. So I think let's redo or get new buses or trucks here. We'll get these big tanker trucks, and then we'll get rid of probably 5 of them, I'd say. So that'll help keep things spaced out a little more. We won't get a huge backup of trucks at this intersection, hopefully. And they should be able to keep up with everything. I think we'll keep these smaller trucks on here for now. We will have to see if maybe we need to add a few more as they bring the oil into the city to get shipped up to the fuel line, but hopefully now we won't see a huge mess of trucks at this intersection. And coming back into our destinations layer while we wait for those buses to sort out, it doesn't seem like there's any other demand coming into Mesa from anywhere. So all that extra private transportation was from San Jose. We're not going to do anything about the Downey situation right now, as I think it's a low enough amount of cars where it's not going to cause too much of an issue. As you can see, we still have sort of this half of the city handled with that bus connection. So I think now we can go back to all and see if maybe there's another area that's highly trafficked that we can try to update. So one thing I notice here in the destinations layer is this road getting very heavily used, and I think that's largely coming from Downey to San Jose. And this one's interesting since we already have a train connection between those two cities. If we take a look here and we come to Downey, we can see really the only people coming into Downey by private transportation is by San Jose. However, there is a good amount of people, well, somewhat good amount of people coming from Winston-Salem and Albuquerque, but that just makes sense since the train is very complicated to get between those cities. So I think what I want to try to cut down most on is the private transportation here. And since we already have a train line set up, I think what's holding us back is how quick the train is between these two cities. So I think it's starting to get a little bit quicker for them to take their own cars than it is to take the train. And so that's what we're going to look into real quick. So currently we're running this Metroliner train, and that's what's going between those two cities. We do have a few other ones. This intercity train is a little bit quicker, but I think it's slower to accelerate. We did recently unlock this commuter train, but that's much slower and not something that we'll want. Taking a look at our passenger cars, they don't get much faster than 120 miles an hour. So maybe there's just nothing that we can really do with this. I mean, maybe we can find an engine that's a little bit quicker in acceleration, but still has a decent top speed. So I think maybe what we'll try to do here is use one of our electric engines. This one here, the EMD AEM-7. That, I think, is the quickest accelerating train that we have at the moment. I suppose maybe there's this one, but it's almost twice as expensive, and we definitely wouldn't get our money's worth out of it. But this engine and either 3 or 4 of these cars behind it, if we take a look at the power ratings between both of these, the existing one can get up to a top speed of 120 in 133 seconds, and currently with the one we're replacing it with, it'll be able to get up to 124 miles an hour in 131 seconds. So we might drop off a car so that it gets there even faster, but it will have less capacity. So we'll give it a shot. We'll see if that helps improve the numbers or the need to go between these cities, as it's a pretty short train to be doing that type of route with, but it's not like these trains are full anyway. I mean, another issue could just be that, well, first of all, both of these are on the same terminal, so they're competing with passengers. So this platform, now that it's switched out, should have a bunch more space for people. And checking on the San Jose end, it seems like, yeah, these are doing just fine. I don't think there's any need for us to upgrade those. So I think we'll just let this go and see if this maybe helps improve the numbers. If not, I suppose we could set up another bus line between those cities, and maybe we could have it stop somewhere else instead. But I think we could probably leave that connection as so. Now coming back here to all and taking a look at what's currently getting used, we have a pretty decent demand between Winston-Salem and Albuquerque. However, I think this could just be solved by improving our bus network in Winston-Salem, as we now have this whole chunk of the city that has grown in and is not connected to our public transportation. So I don't think there's too much that we have to do to fix this other than just adding a few bus stops over here. So we'll go around and do that real quick, and then we'll update our bus networks to reflect that. Alright, so we have our bus networks updated. These only have 8 vehicles on the lines, so I think we'll get up to 10 on each. And now hopefully we'll see a lot less private transportation coming out of Winston-Salem. Albuquerque is still pretty well covered, and it gets a little weird over here. So I think we might leave this just for now, as it's not too terrible. It definitely needs to be done soon, but I think we're okay to leave it for maybe another 2 or 3 videos before we have to come back and maybe redo this. So now over here's an interesting one with Stockton, Sacramento, and Modesto, as Sacramento and Stockton don't have any major passenger connections. Sacramento has an airport and Stockton has a port, but they don't have anywhere else to get sort of out of their cities. So they're all being funneled to this road to get into Modesto, where then they either drive through the city or, well, it looks like most of them are driving through the city regardless. Although it's interesting, it seems no one's using our underground connection here that we made for bypassing the city, but maybe they're just not going past that. I mean, if we check Sacramento, nothing's really coming out past the city of Modesto, so no one would need to use that road. I think the same is probably true for Stockton. No one's really coming in through that way. And then just checking Modesto, we can see a good demand from Stockton and Sacramento, and then just a little bit of private transportation, I think coming from Scottsdale and Jackson. But I think setting up a bus network between these 3 cities is definitely needed. So on the Sacramento end, it's pretty easy. We have this bus station here where we can quickly just add on another platform, and that should be able to be served pretty well. I think the same could be said for Modesto. We can expand this one. We'll have to get rid of the collision tile yet again. But getting into the city is going to be a little hard. We might have to fix some of these roads to allow a more straightforward connection. And then over in Stockton, I think we'll just take out one of these and replace it with one of our bus loop stations. So let's just clear out a little spot here, and let's just throw this in. This should work just fine. So we can place that like so. That should connect to the existing one. So that works out, and then we can use this as our station to go between cities as well. Alright, so we just had to redo some things. I think it was colliding with the fence that we had here, so we re-fenced in the area and added an extra platform here. We even have the new updated bus station, so this looks pretty clean here. And I think the last thing we have to do is fix the road situation, and then we can get buses running. So the first thing we'll do is delete that road, as this will probably need to be a straighter connection. And then I think I'm okay with the buses having to turn and then turn again. I mean, it's not really worth completely destroying all of this. We will upgrade these roads, though I thought I got them before, but it'll just be quick to do that, and there should be no more brick roads around this city anymore. So let's now grab some buses, and we'll continue going with these same 56-mile-an-hour buses, as they are the fastest. So they're faster than most private transportation. And we won't get too many. I think we'll just get 6 buses. And they will run... I guess the easiest way to do this would be... we could either do 3 separate lines connecting the 3 cities, or we could do 2 sort of circular loops. And I think we might do that option. So we'll have this one, we'll come into Stockton and then come up to Sacramento. So that works. And then we'll grab 6 more buses to go in the opposite direction. So now our lines are set. Let's just go to the stations and make sure those are set up properly. So we'll want that. This one will go here, and then these 2 can share one platform since they won't really be coming too often. They don't need their own separate platform for each one. And we'll do that same thing for each of these cities. We'll just put both of these new lines on their own terminal, and then hopefully we'll start to see people using them. So it looks like that really backed up all of our buses here, so it's going to take a while for this to flush out, but I think once everything's sorted out here, we should have a pretty good, decently running setup. Now what's interesting to note is I think people in Stockton and Sacramento, since they'll be connected to this bus station now, will be using this train station as pretty much their main way to get to the rest of the map. So we'll want to make sure that we're prepared for that, and it looks like our Jackson to Modesto line is already filled up. So if we take a look at the finances, this train does very well. So I think it might be time we replace these, and I'd love to use these engines, but this is going to be very risky considering how expensive it is. So whatever we make out of this is gonna have to be worth it pretty much. So taking a look here at our new train, it has 2 extra cars compared to what's already there, and we're using this different engine which will get us to top speed in almost half of the time that the old one currently takes. So let's try with that. Again, we'll have to keep an eye on the difference in running costs. It looks like this one was sitting around 15 every period. This says 8.8 million a year. I'm not sure how well that translates to our finances chart, so we'll just have to let it run and see how that ends up going. But hopefully that'll help us bring our passenger numbers down, at least over on this end in Modesto. And just for reference, we can see our new train here flying down this line, passing our cargo train. And this will give you a sense of just how long it is in terms of passenger cars. And I believe it's pretty much already up to top speed, so it'll be running pretty much full speed from here all the way until it gets back to the city. And I think it'll do just fine. We can already see an uptick in the expenses, so we'll just have to hope that the increase in speed makes up for it. Now, another thing I want to do, just coming back and looking here, it looks like we're pretty much filling up this station yet again, and our Jackson to Birmingham line has over 1,000 people waiting, which is shocking because I didn't think that Jackson to Birmingham would ever become a line that would have this many people. Even over here, it's overloading. So I think this line needs a pretty serious redesign. So let's replace those. Now I want to try something quick. I want to see if these intercity trains will work for this connection. I'm worried it might be too steep for them to reach their full speed. But we have this one here that's currently in Birmingham. So we'll watch it come down the hill and see if it gets to top speed, but I'm more worried about going back up the hill. So we'll just have to keep a close eye on that. We can see its power rating is mediocre, so on high slopes it can't even reach its top speed. So once we find a train that's moving, we can evaluate from there how well these will be for us. Alright, so I think already watching this train, it's not even at its top speed and it's sort of struggling to get there. So these trains definitely aren't going to be what we're looking for this line. And I don't think any of these multi-unit trains are really going to work out for us on a line like this. So we'll have to come back up here and build a train that suits our need best. So I think this might be the train that we go with. It's the same engine we just used on the Modesto to Jackson line. Again, we will need to keep an eye on the finances since this engine is very expensive. And it looks like we actually don't have this electrified, so we'll just have to come through and electrify this whole line, and then we'll be back once we get that new engine running on this line. So here's this engine in Jackson about to pick up a full load of people, and we'll watch it as it goes up to Birmingham. I have no doubt it'll reach its top speed, no problem, but again, the finances are something that we're going to need to keep an eye on. So maybe if we need to, we'll add a few extra cars to make up for that cost, but we'll just have to keep an eye on it as it goes through that. Alright, so this train is able to start approaching its top speed well before it gets to the city of Birmingham, so I think this train is a much better choice than the other train we had. It looks like it actually needs to slow down. Oh, actually, I think there's a section of track that we forgot to upgrade, so that definitely wasn't helping us. And I believe it seems to be another section that we've missed, so that hasn't been helping at all with this line and the previous trains that have been running on here. And I think we're finally covered. Yeah, it looks like everything else is fully high speed. So again, we'll continue to keep an eye on that line and make sure it's still getting us profits. One good thing we can see is this number to Jackson and Birmingham has started to go down. So we are starting to cut into that number a good bit and free up some space on other lines for trains to fill up with people. I believe that one's not for Birmingham, but I have no doubt that our new engines are going to be much better than the old ones. We can see here this one's pretty much at full speed by the time it passes the cargo hub, so it has all of this track left to just cruise at top speed, and hopefully we'll watch it over this bridge, but I don't think this bridge is limiting its speed just yet. I think these bridges do not reach the top speed, but I think we're still good with it. Well, it looks like it does slow down just a little bit, but I don't think that's too much to the point where we need to replace the bridge. It's only about 10 miles an hour that we lose, but these trains can carry much more people. They're much quicker, or at least a little quicker, and already we can just see how much Birmingham has exploded since we put in that new bus network and distribution area. I mean, it's pretty much grown this entire area around the train station, and it's gonna maybe grow down into here, which might be interesting. And we're starting to get our first skyscrapers, as we can see. Birmingham actually has one. I'm not sure if any other cities have one. But yeah, we can see the target population of Birmingham has just completely exploded with these improvements that we made. So, very exciting to see. We'll have to continue checking in and see how this city grows. And it looks like other areas are starting to get skyscrapers. Jackson has its first skyscraper. Scottsdale has 2 or 3, it looks like. So we're definitely starting to enter a new era in this game. And I'm really excited to see what these cities look like when they're fully developed in, I guess, sort of the game's eyes. So for some reason we have this that I just noticed. And that's not really good at all. So I think we're going to maybe just increase the size of some of these platforms to allow for more buses, and then we'll try to put in a new building somewhere. I guess we'll just put 2 buildings on the side here. As much as that won't look too great, I think it's much needed, however, in order to get this flowing as efficiently as possible. And then over here, something I'm noticing, our tools line is completely filling up, so we'll replace these trucks with, I think we'll go for these smaller trucks, as they'll be able to navigate the city better. I think the ones that we're currently running are these, so these trucks will definitely be much more of an upgrade. Maybe we even get 1 more and bring it to 5 trucks. So hopefully that'll help clear this out, since I think this station's pretty much filled with tools. Everything else looks pretty good. We might have to redo our goods distribution in these cities pretty soon, as they've grown significantly yet again, and things have probably shifted since we first set up our truck lines. But we'll see if that helps at all, and then in another video we'll come back and do all of that. But let's now check in on all of the improvements that we've made in this video. It looks like traffic coming into Mesa has completely cleared up, or at least cleared up to the other side of the bridge. This actually looks like it's flowing very well, so that's good to see. We have a good amount of people actually wanting to go to San Jose. We do have our buses here, so hopefully I can take care of the demand. But that looks very promising. We're now starting to get a good amount of people that are leaving Mesa, but I don't think this is really much of a traffic issue. They're just sort of stopped at traffic lights. So I think that's just fine. If we take a look here, there is a bit of traffic, but I think this is all sorting itself out. There's not really any major issues here with these intersections. We could maybe replace this with a large roundabout in the future, just to keep everyone moving, and since some of these roads aren't really being used, all these other cars are getting stopped pretty unnecessarily, but we'll keep an eye on that as we continue to move on. Over on this end in San Jose, it looks like our bus is still in pretty well demand on this side, and it looks like all of our buses are able to handle stuff, although maybe this one could. Maybe we'll just bump it up to 15 on each of the individual San Jose bus lines. Checking in on our trains. I don't think these new trains really did much. I mean, it did make a profit most recently, so that might be something promising. Maybe there's just more on the downy end in terms of passengers, as this train left almost completely full. But I think reestablishing that connection by train is going to be a little bit of a challenge as we continue to go forward. But I still think we're able to handle a lot of the traffic that was coming through this area. So just checking our other lines, it looks like our new bus networks in Winston-Salem and Albuquerque actually did help out a little bit. I forget what the numbers were before, but this looks like a lighter shade of blue. So I think the new bus network, at least in Winston-Salem, because we didn't touch Albuquerque, allows more people to come to this train station, which then helps them get out of the city faster. And lastly, let's see if our bus stations are doing anything for us. It looks like we do have a few people waiting on these lines. We have 3 and 1 over on this end. Let's just check up here. So Sacramento has tons of people waiting to go on that route. And then down here, same thing with Stockton. So I think we could probably afford to, I'd say, double the buses on each line. And another thing we're going to do is, I think, upgrade the street to be the full 4-lane large country road, as this will bring the top speed up on these roads. So they'll be able to travel much faster. Because if we take a look, the 4-lane road is 62 miles an hour, while the 2-lane road is only 50. I think we might, I guess it wouldn't hurt to also upgrade this street that winds up the hill. And then, of course, this one over here, at least until it gets to this intersection. So hopefully that works out. We'll redo these bridges since they're the stone bridges that I believe have only a 36 mile an hour speed limit. So let's just come in here quick and we'll replace these bridges. So now that we have this road deleted, let's try to come in and we'll try to get the best bridge that we can. I think we'll just go with the concrete bridge, but we'll want to raise that up. I think this is actually just good, so that slope works just fine for us. And then we'll want to come to this bridge and do the same thing. So drag this across, we'll switch it to a concrete bridge, and then we'll raise it up just a little bit. It doesn't need to be too high, as there's not really much out there, but I suppose we can make it just high enough to allow boats through. And then we'll build that, and now we should be able to play, and these buses will be able to reach their max speed pretty much without issue, and that should also help give them a leg up on cars. This curve is maybe something we want to avoid, so we'll just come back and connect those. And I think that's really it in terms of things that need fixed. Hopefully we'll see many more people using these lines. It looks like this has been very successful, so very much needed, and that'll also help push this train station more in terms of people. We do have this station overloaded again from increasing the amount of buses that we have, but it'll sort itself out again in the future, and we should be doing just fine. So then lastly, let's check in on the last few trains that we had. So it looks like the running cost didn't change by too much. It looks like maybe about $2 to $3 million, and the profits have actually gone up quite a bit. So I think this was worth it. The only thing is we'll want to make sure that our trains are actually leaving full so that we get the most out of them. So it looks like this train coming in here might not get an entirely full load, but it will be pretty close. I'm not going to make any adjustments now since we just added more buses into here, so I think that'll increase the amount of people using this station. But as long as those trains are running full, I think that investment was definitely worth it. And if we check in on the Jackson end of it, it doesn't look like that line's in too much demand right now, but maybe as things come and go, our networks improve, those numbers might change as well. And then lastly, checking on our Birmingham line, if we can find one of our trains. Looks like here's one. And we select the finances on that one. This looks very promising, as we've almost tripled our profits while only, I suppose, maybe doubling our running costs. So that's also a huge win, and yet again only profitable as long as it's leaving with a full load of people, which on both ends still is probably quite a way to go before we run out of people, and Birmingham is only continuing to grow, so there's not really any issue there. So I think overall this was a very productive episode. We can see we've actually taken some private transportation demand off of the highways, as this section of highway is now no longer getting heavily used as it was before, which is a good thing. It still looks good. I think we will set up a bus route eventually that runs along this highway, maybe between Mesa and Montgomery, or something else along those lines, but for now I think we're doing just fine, and as long as we don't have any major traffic buildups, I'll consider it a success. So I think that's going to be all that we're going to do in this video. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or feedback, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.